So for many of us, going on vacation is stressful. We have to get so much done before we leave. Then we worry about remembering all that needed to be handled while we're away. Then when we return, it can take several days just to get caught up on the stuff that happened while we were gone. It's stressful to rest. My name is Jim. I'm one of the pastors here at New Hope. And in this video, we're going to be talking about why the rest that we provide ourselves is so exhausting and what is way better than that. So stay tuned. So we've been working through Matthew chapter 11, verses 25 through 30, as we try to determine why we are so tired all the time and why it's so difficult to find rest. In last week's video, we talked about truly coming to Jesus to find rest, not going to other sources. For us as believers, rest isn't something that we achieve. It's not a secret that only, enlightened individuals have achieved through disciplined practices. It's much simpler than that. Because Jesus said right here in Matthew chapter 11 that I will give you rest. Because true rest comes from God. Now, some people use the term joy or peace. Some people refer to this type of rest as contentment. These are terms that are found in Scripture that come from God Himself. And I would suggest that we do well to reframe our understanding of rest from what we can provide for ourselves to something that God can provide for us. Now, there are different things that we can do for ourselves to provide temporary rest. An afternoon nap, a vacation, a walk outside on a beautiful fall day, a good night's sleep. These are all good and healthy things for us to do, no doubt. But they're also very temporary. Any rest that we can achieve on our own is going to be temporary and will oftentimes be disappointing because it didn't provide us what we really hoped that it would. But the rest that comes from God is much more potent. Now, how do we get this rest? Well, he says, in this passage, he says, "Take my yoke on you and learn from me." Now, if we were in a primitive agricultural society, we would probably be much more familiar with what a yoke is. It's a large wooden collar that would link work animals to each other. It combined the strengths of the animals together, so one animal was not doing all the work. Now, the yoke also did something that is very important. It also disciplined the animals to be able to pull together, all the same direction and even in step with each other. This detail is significant. Joy, peace, and contentment develop in our lives as we do things that Jesus did to stay in step with His Father. Because as counterintuitive as it sounds, it's the obedience that brings peace and rest to our souls. Now, how, you may ask? That just seems like more work. Well, the presence of obedience, if done in a love for God, is the absence of self-will, selfishness. If my focus is my self-satisfaction, that desire will become very frustrated when it doesn't get what it wants. It puts up a real fight and even can internally throw a temper tantrum inside of us when our selfishness is not being satisfied. This creates such a sense of inner irritation when we're not getting what it is that we want. It's almost like an itch on the bottom of your foot when you have your boots on and they're all laced up at a point where we're not able to get at that itch and scratch it. When we are not focused on what we aren't getting, though, well, then there is this inner relief that comes. The itch has gone, and it's not because we got to it to scratch it, but it just left. When we take Jesus' yoke on ourselves, When we are walking in step with Him, when we are being obedient to Him and doing the things that He's told us to do, our hearts begin to turn from our hearts begin to turn to desiring to please Him instead of pleasing ourselves, which then causes us to quit focusing on the things that we are not getting for ourselves to satisfy that selfishness. Again, it seems counterintuitive. When I give up wanting stuff that makes me happy, I actually begin to experience true joy because those cravings to make myself happy start to leave. Joy replaces happiness because love is maximized in giving and not receiving. This is why people in third world countries are oftentimes so much happier and so much more happy-go-lucky than us and here in America. They value things like relationships over possessions and success and money and influence and all those things. There just isn't anything to create that itch. Rest is so satisfying when I am living in joy. Rest is hard when I am concerned about what I'm not getting. Living with open hands is relaxing. Clutching possessions and recognition and position is exhausting. So over the next week, I would challenge you to look at the areas of your life that are exhausting you. What are those? And then try asking yourself, where is Jesus in this area? Am I living in obedience to Jesus in this area? Am I living in balance with what Jesus is calling me to do in this area? Is He leading you? Or are you leading yourself? Are you trying to accomplish what you want? What self-interests are wrapped up in these areas? Have you chosen obedience to God in these areas? If so, is God wearing you out? That doesn't make sense because He said, I will give you rest if you do what I say that you should do. So we will reconvene next week and see how Jesus tends to teach and lead us in areas where we are exhausted. I will look forward to seeing you then.